Wow, I truly can't believe it. First Sweden and now Italy voting far-right parties in? How could this possibly happen? It just makes no sense at all. Truly, nobody could have predicted this. Okay, I may or may not have expected this to happen exactly how it went. I have obviously been covering waves of migration to Europe for years now, from simple on-the-ground reports to documentaries like my film Borderless about the crisis of unprecedented masses of illegals coming over the Mediterranean. One particular prediction I always had regarding this crisis was that it can only end one way. Europe either collapses or they turn to the far right for leadership. Extreme mistakes can really only be fixed with extreme solutions, many would think. That doesn't mean that you should believe the media and Twitter, who are screeching right now about how the ghost of Mussolini has literally taken power in Italy and is about to institute fascism too, Meloni Boogaloo. No, what I mean is that strong leadership that may seem initially rather extreme to the public is needed in order to deal with what has become an extreme crisis in Europe, one in which progressive policy has let poverty, crime, migration, and a plethora of other problems overrun the continent. It's going to take some painful corrections there to change course. But before we jump into a more detailed analysis of what these new governments have in store for, in particular, Italy, but Sweden as well, what Europe could look like if this right-wing trend continues, or if it doesn't continue, I wanted to give a huge thank you to this channel's sponsor, Noble Gold. Right now, central banks are increasing their gold reserves due to global financial crisis concerns. Billionaires like Ray Dalio to giant fund management companies like Goldman Sachs are all turning to physical assets like gold. And that's not surprising. Historically, gold's biggest booms have happened after great recessions. In fact, after the '08 crash, gold prices jumped 50.6%. Think about what that means. Wealth of entire countries are being protected by gold. Wealth of billionaires protected by gold. Everyone who knows what is going on is using gold to keep their billions safe. And Noble Gold Investments can help you protect your wealth too. And it will take you no more than 5 minutes to set up an account. Noble Gold specializes in storing the value of your wealth through gold IRAs, so they are the natural choice to go to. And even better, they are giving away a beautiful 1/10 ounce gold American Eagle coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k this month. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call their team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Oh my goodness, it truly is nightmare month for the left right now. First, Sweden elects the Sweden Democrats as a majority in their parliament, and this party isn't just like, the moderate right. They were literally considered the extremist far-right party in the country, and now they're the majority right-wing bloc there. And then, just this week, Italy has done the same by electing their new prime minister, Giorgia Meloni, leader of the Brothers of Italy, a right-wing populist and national conservative party. But for some reason, rather than celebrate the new girl boss in town as the first female prime minister of Italy ever, Twitter and the media have decided that Meloni is about to whip up an army of simps to form new spaghetti death squads. I'm serious. Fascism has been trending for about 2 days on Twitter now, with people just losing their damn minds. In truth, the only thing reminiscent of 1940s Italy to Meloni's leadership is that she seems to be wanting to reform the Italian-Japanese alliance by her strange love of anime drawings. But on a serious note, like any good national conservative, Meloni does not want to create a dictatorship. She's not some reincarnation of Mussolini. She simply wants to finally enact the will of the people. Something perhaps the political left are unwilling to accept despite her party winning a sweeping victory. God forbid leftists actually acknowledge that the far right isn't this mystical ethereal force run by the spirits of long-dead boogeymen from our past, but instead is just a very real sentiment amongst humans that, holy hell, our countries are a mess, Our housing is unaffordable, green initiatives have completely effed our energy prices, and we have waves of illegals coming in our country that are unaccounted for, can't get work, and are committing mass crimes. Feelings of resentment and wanting to fix these crises is not strange. It is a completely human reaction, which is the most terrifying thing ever for those on the left who want us to live in a state of perpetual political delusion. And no one has explained this better than Meloni herself in her own speech, summing up why Italians have turned to the right wing to fix things.
A monte c'è quella che ci facciamo oggi: perché la famiglia è un nemico? Perché la famiglia fa così paura? C'è una risposta unica per tutte queste domande, perché ci definisce, perché è la nostra identità, perché tutto quello che ci definisce in questo tempo è un nemico, per chi vorrebbe che non avessimo più un'identità e che fossimo solamente schiavi, consumatori perfetti. E allora è sotto attacco l'identità nazionale, è sotto attacco l'identità religiosa, è sotto attacco l'identità di genere, è sotto attacco l'identità familiare. Non devo potermi definire italiana, cristiana, donna, madre, no. Io devo essere cittadino X, genere X, genitore 1, genitore 2, devo essere un numero. Perché quando sarò solamente un numero, quando non avrò più un'identità, quando non avrò più radici, allora sarò lo schiavo perfetto in balia della grande speculazione finanziaria, il consumatore perfetto. Questa è la ragione per la quale oggi noi facciamo tanta paura. Questa è la ragione per la quale oggi questo appuntamento fa tanta paura. Perché noi non vogliamo essere dei numeri, noi siamo qui per dire che noi non siamo dei numeri, noi difenderemo il valore della persona umana, di ogni singola persona umana, perché ognuno di noi ha un codice genetico unico e irripetibile. E questo, piaccia o no, ha del sacro. Lo difenderemo Dio, la patria e la famiglia, che fanno tanto schifo a qualcuno. Lo faremo per difendere la nostra libertà, perché noi non saremo mai schiavi e semplici consumatori in balia della speculazione finanziaria. Ecco la nostra missione, ecco perché oggi sono venuta qui.
What I particularly enjoy about this new brand of right-wing politics in Europe is that it's not just focused on simply economic solutions, but the actual state of human beings, their souls, their emotions. Far too many North American politicians in particular are just obsessed with their graphs and their GDP. When line go up, people happy. No, we know this is not the case. We have more prosperity in the way of things today than at any time in history. We've got our iPhones, our clothing, our shiny bling and $1 accessories from China at every other shop. You can get anything you could ever dream of off of Amazon.com, but none of this is bringing fulfillment in life. The new right don't care if they look bad, if materialism is on the decline, or if they have to make harsh policies that don't make people feel warm and fuzzy inside initially, so long as those policies actually lead to a truly functioning country and a spiritual revival. So let's talk about some of those actual policies. What does this new reincarnation of Mussolini, the terrifying Giorgia Meloni, have in store for Italy? Well, let's start with one of my personal favorites, migration. Meloni has called for a naval blockade to prevent migrant boats from leaving North African shores and has proposed screening potential asylum seekers in Africa rather than in Europe before they set out on smugglers' boats to Europe. I think I may just have a job application to submit here. I know a thing or two about protecting Italian shores in the Mediterranean. Seriously though, this is one of those things, again, that should be common sense. No country on this planet has open borders. None. To travel anywhere, you and I both have to bring a damn passport, you have to state your reasons for entry, you have to have your bag scanned, and you can't just bring bombs or heroin into any country you like. Of course there has to be some border process. This shouldn't even be a debate to begin with. Next, taxes. The Brothers of Italy have called for a reduction of the tax burden for families, businesses, and self-employed individuals, including a flat tax for the latter, along with abolishing citizens' income and unemployment benefit introduced by the populist five-star movement. Once again, just common sense. Reducing the tax burden on workers massively incentivizes economic growth rather than making it easier for people to live off the fruit of everyone else's labor. Duh. Next, energy policy. With most of Europe getting ready to freeze to death this year, Italians are unsurprisingly shitting themselves over energy bills. Europe has relied way too heavily on Russian gas and green energy initiatives, leading to a total collapse of their energy sector since the war in Ukraine and the discovery that no, wind turbines cannot compete with oil. Sorry. Meloni hasn't given too many details, but has stated that they want to focus on a plan for energy self-sufficiency, including the use of natural gas within Italy and looking into nuclear energy. It's like another no freaking brainer. Even radical left-wingers that are educated on energy policy are hardcore nuclear advocates. I would say that it is a shock more politicians haven't taken this up as a rallying cry for both the left and the right-wing votes. But too many of them are still under the ridiculous impression that nuclear energy is icky. It doesn't sound nice. So they'd rather focus on the bottomless pit that is renewables and let their populations suffer. Next, families. The right-wing coalition wants to put more government resources into supporting and encouraging families. Birth rates in the West are well below replacement levels, meaning, don't want to say that word. Redact that. What I mean is there are not enough kids being born to fulfill job positions, pay taxes, and care for the elderly, and so on. And as usual, Western governments, instead of going to the root of the problem, have decided to turn to mass immigration, using it as a quick band-aid fix to prop up that GDP and population growth, but ultimately in the process hurting those already living in their countries. Young people in the West and in Europe want to have families, but simply cannot have them because it is unaffordable, it is untenable, and it is frankly a disgrace that governments have decided to import new people instead of supporting and helping the wants and needs of their current populations to have families. Meloni wants to fix this by providing free nurseries, employment protection for young mothers, increase in support for families, and in particular support for families with disabled dependents. Love it. Love it. We could go through a million more policies here today, but I think you get the picture. Do any of these ideas really seem all that terrifying or fascistic to you? They're not. They're common sense, which is why the left are relying on such inflammatory language and vague allusions to the Second World War to slander Meloni. If they talked about any of her actual policies, people would see through their efforts in a heartbeat and wonder why the media are trashing somebody who is offering obvious solutions to problems that have ravaged the West for decades now. I know this is a very simple analysis, but it's all true. The wins in Sweden and Italy by the far right are a sign that people are waking up to this. Random segue, but there's this meme from a YouTuber named JReg where he says that when economies crash, countries either go commie or they go fash. And there's a lot of truth to that. When people are in dire situations, they desire extreme solutions. After all my time traveling in Europe, through Greece, through Italy, seeing how migration and government greed was destroying these nations, my prediction was always that if bad progressive policy continued for another 20 years, we would genuinely see fascists and dictators in Europe again. I mean, real ones, not just regular common sense opinions like the policies of Meloni and the Brothers of Italy. People wouldn't just be wanting solutions at that point 20 years from now. They'd be wanting revenge, and it would be ugly. Very ugly. And I have genuinely been terrified of this. Far too many online LARPers are just giddy for a civil war. And I'm not saying I wouldn't fare well in the apocalypse. I am a schizo prepper after all. But I'm also aware that it will freaking suck if people are shooting at each other in the streets, if your neighbors are robbing you, if governments are dragging people away to death camps. I don't want any of that. I'd rather avoid authoritarian dictatorships in response to civilizational collapse at all costs. But if I am being honest, I still probably think we're headed that way. Race riots, political lynchings, violent street mobs. I think it's a dark future we're headed towards. Unless we get more victories in North America and Europe following suit, like Sweden and like Italy, to join already established nationalist governments like Poland and Hungary. And if you are a left-winger, hear me out, I actually think this is good for you too. Because if you are under the impression that people are just going to put up with teachers wearing giant breast implants to classes, gas prices going through the roof, children transitioning at 12, and migrant rape gangs for another 20 years, you are delusional. And it will get very, very, very bad for you and everyone else if things don't change course soon. Conservatives, and not even conservatives, just regular, normal people, are already being treated like absolute dirt today for having normal opinions. They're discriminated against in hiring, slandered by the press, having their bank accounts shut down for protesting authoritarian governments. They're resentful and frustrated with the situation they find themselves in. And imagine what will happen if that resentment keeps bubbling up under the surface until it blows up on a civilizational level. All I can say is it won't be a good day. And I don't want to see it either, for both your sake, libtards, and mine. The only way to protect all people, no matter what their politics are, no matter what their identity is to find a common sense balance again. And with the Overton window having gone so far leftward that it has fallen off the edge, a middle ground can genuinely only be found in what we are now calling the far right. That is where the middle used to be. And I am glad more and more people are waking up to that, because it may be the only way we can avoid mass civilizational conflict and collapse. Anyways, I appreciate you guys all watching this. As I've said, I'm not that optimistic for the future, but this is a white pill, your daily white pill, all right, guys? Moving towards a positive direction. God willing, this will happen in Canada and America too, but I don't know. We'll see. I appreciate you all. Be sure to hit all those fun buttons, like, subscribe, share, and I will see you next time.